Are we live?
I'm just tidying up the live stream now as we speak. We're live already.
Oh, so I guess now would be a good time for me to put the hamster back in the cage, huh? Gee, and I was hoping I could show off my hamster before we went public. You gotta admit, he's pretty cute.
He is cute. You don't need to put him away.
Well, it's a little weird. I was at a community meeting and then some lady, she had a hamster. And like, what was that? All right. For some reason, my computer is not cooperating and it's not letting me minimize my screen. Okay. Okay. Well, isn't that a bizarre thing? All right, now I finally got it to minimize so that I can have multiple things on my screen. Okay, be right back. There we go. We got almost a quorum. Back in the cage you go. They're very funny. As soon as I turn off the light, they take their role as nocturnal creatures very seriously. And as soon as I turn off the light, they start running around on their cage, on their wheel.
Barbara's here.
Yeah. I am just going to print out my agenda so that I can minimize the number of things I have going, excuse me, on in my screen. And we will get started in just a moment. Hi, Nobles. Thanks for your willingness, but you are off the hook.
Thanks, Liz.
Don't thank me. Thank Alexis.
Alexis, stepping up. Nice.
Yeah.
Thank you, Alexis.
All right. So for some reason, okay, participants, there we go.
Do you have a gerbil, Liz?
I have two. They're hamsters.
When did you get those?
Them
Hamsters.
for Hanukkah. If you had been on the call earlier, you would have met.
Oh.
You would have met one of them. I'm not going to lie. I cannot actually tell them apart.
Do you know if they're a boy or a girl?
They're both boys.
Okay, because I was gonna say surprise babies. If not.
Oh yeah, no, they're both boys. Let's just say very obviously so. But they're very cute, and this particular breed is not nippy.
Oh, nice.
They're very friendly and not
important.
nippy, which is nice.
Are they big enough to find if you were to lose them outside of the cage in your home?
They're only about this big, so you know, yes, but no.
Yeah. They're not like one of the bigger ones, like.
No, these are like if I'm holding them both and I go like this.
You cover them both. Yeah. They're small. Got it.
Yeah, they're very small.
Cool.
So. Okay, enough about my hamsters. That was probably more information than people wanted to know, but you know, we try to keep things friendly here. So welcome everybody. I just want to see what we have here. We've got Alexis, Nobles, Etta, Barbara, Sally, Naima, Danielle, Francisco, me. That's everybody but Daryl, and is certainly a quorum. So I am going to call this meeting to order. And Paola, if you can, as you usually do, send me, the attendance and the chat at the end of the session would be great. That's been super helpful, and I really appreciate your consistency with that.
You're welcome.
So welcome everybody to the January 2021 meeting of the Community Board 12 Parks and Cultural Affairs Committee. Yeah, we're still here doing these on Zoom. I don't think anybody thought that we would be doing this for this long, but here we are. And the world certainly has gotten a little weird in the intervening months, weeks, and days. So, I will say that one of the nice things about Zoom is that we've had really good participation and attendance, and I appreciate that. And it's been a little bit easier for agency people, for consultants, for community people, for institutional representatives to drop into these and other community board meetings. So that's a good thing. But, there are some disadvantages of not having the kind of interactive, the interactions that we have in person to be able to have conversations to follow up on whatever it is that are projects of mutual interest that we might do in the back of the room at the end of a meeting, or as people are, coming and going in a meeting. So I do miss that. And I mention this just by way of reminding people that particularly for people in the community who are listening and who have the ability to ask questions on the chat, but don't necessarily have the opportunity to speak, that if there's something that somebody said and you need repeated, some contact information that you missed, a flyer that you're hoping that somebody can post, please do ask us to do that. We'll be monitoring the chat. We might not get right back to you immediately as soon as you post it, but we will be going through it as the meeting is ongoing, and don't hesitate to ask for those questions and clarifications. Please also know that one of the quirks of this particular webinar format is we as panelists cannot initiate questions in the chat. We don't have that ability. We can answer questions that other people ask. So I can't say, oh, let me give you this website for more information. I can only do that as a response if somebody says, hey, what's the website for fill in the blank? So if you hear one of us ask someone to please, in the public, to please ask us a question like, quick, somebody asked me, what's that email link or that email address or that web link? We do that because it's just a quirk of how this particular platform works. And I apologize for that, but the technology is what the technology is. The other thing that I wanted to, I usually make a list of announcements, and I know I'm forgetting a couple of things. I had a very packed day and was not able to prepare as well as I would have liked. I do want to let people know that as a follow-up to last month's extraordinary conversation that we had about the possibilities for renaming Bennett Park, there were a number of follow-ups that I had hoped to do and others had hoped to do in terms of reaching out to the Lenape Center, reaching out to a couple of other organizations on for additional feedback to further that conversation. And I apologize. I just was not able to do any of that. Life got in the way, holidays got in the way, rioting crazy people got in the way. So I apologize for that and do hope to do more of that in anticipation for further discussion next month. Pending completion of the rest of the agenda, we may circle back to this conversation a little bit, but I just want to be mindful that people are just kind of fried from world events. So I'd very much like to keep this meeting on the shorter side. Because I just don't think people have tolerance for a, 2.5, 3 hour Zoom. So with that, I also, a word about the agenda. I changed the agenda a little bit to put the programming updates at the end of the meeting, just to mix things up. Sometimes we ask for the design presenters to go first. Sometimes we ask for them to go last. I like to change the order of who gets to go first because that just seems more fair. So yeah, with that, I want to turn it over to Jennifer Hoppe to give her parks report.
Thank you, Liz. Can you hear me?
Yep.
I want to start out by thanking everybody who contributed to Mulch Fest. We ended up mulching over 1,367 trees at Inwood Hill and 383 trees at J. Hood Wright. So all of that wonderful tree material now can be used to mulch our street trees and our hundreds of garden beds in Northern Manhattan parks. So thank you.
Surprised we didn't hear from Sally on that. That's like her thing.
Well, I don't know if Sally's on the call yet, but a special shout out to Sally and the friends at Inwood Hill Park. They were there on both chipping Saturdays at Inwood Hill Park. We had cabbage cheese to give away. The parks also got a chameleon cold brew, even though it was 0 degrees. And Friends of Inwood Hill Park had activities and sachets for people to make out of chips, but it was great. Really feel good. And it was really wonderful that people are recycling their trees and helping our other green spaces. I wanted to remind people, especially as our numbers start to escalate, Highbridge Parks Recreation Center was converted into a COVID testing site. It's run by Health and Hospitals Corporation. You can walk in. There is a bit of a wait, as you can imagine, during these times, but you won't have to pay for it. And that's daily, Monday through Sunday, 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. There's rapid testing availability is limited, but there's COVID testing and antibody testing and flu vaccines available. So the lines are outside. So dress warmly, but at least you have the benefit of not being in a confined space before you're seen. The J. Hood Wright Rec Center is also serving the public during the pandemic as a child care center. You can apply through the New York City Department of Education Learning Bridges program for people who have kids in somewhat blended programs. I also everyone is aware, we've had several full discussions about budget and budget cuts citywide due to the pandemic. But I have to say, in terms of volunteering and stewardship, people in Uptown did a phenomenal job. So often people, like to complain or maybe just write a check, but we had so many people coming alongside us, coming out for our stewardship days, safely social distancing and helping in our parks. And we had over 8,300 volunteer hours, field hours. So removing invasives, clearing debris, doing forest restoration, helping street trees, planting plants. It's really phenomenal. And I think our community deserves a round of applause for that. I wanted to give a quick shout out to Friends of J. Hood, who have started monthly days on the Haven Avenue ramp. That this committee has raised as an issue before. Daryl, I know, has. They're helping steward not just J. Hood Wright Park, but the connection between J. Hood Wright and Fort Washington Park. They just picked up 40 bags of debris with us this past Saturday. Which is phenomenal. And at Highbridge Park, the New York City Mountain Biking Group put in over 2,000 volunteer hours working on that 4-mile trail course. So that's great. Some upcoming stewardship volunteer opportunities. Saturday, January 30th at 9 a.m. We've got a dog run stewardship day with the Fort Tryon Park Trust. And then in mid-February, both J. Hood Wright and Highbridge, we have second Saturday events. So if you go on www.nyc.gov/parks, type in volunteer and the park you want to look at, and you can find out about opportunities. You also have an idea for a volunteer project or want to bring your civic group or organization, you can write me, jennifer.hoppe@parks.nyc.gov, and we can match you with one of our wish list projects. We've got a whole inventory of things we'd love to get done in our parks, and volunteers can help us get things checked off that list much more quickly. But thank you to everybody who's been working alongside us and helping improve our parks during this really challenging time. And I have to say, for a lot of people, it's been really healing and cathartic to have that connection to the earth. Some upcoming events on the events front. Sunday, the 17th at 4 p.m., the Fort Tryon Park Trust is having a webinar or a Zoom workshop with Leslie J. She's an author and naturalist who's uptown based. You can RSVP to info@forttryonparktrust.org for Zoom details. And then our Urban Park Rangers are doing a Historic New York program on January 24th, Sunday, January 24th at 1 p.m. on that'll center on Isham Park. It's got an incredible history. And they'll focus on some of the great features there, and like rock outcroppings, the historic mile marker, the amazing ginkgo, as well as the former Isham estate. Sunday, January 31st, we have a geology tour with the Urban Park Rangers, 11 a.m. to noon, and that's meet at Ann Loftus Playground. There's a lot more events going on. Again, you can check out the Parks Department's website for that. And then just a quick update on some capital projects before I want to cede my time to our design team. Many of you in this committee were instrumental in first advocating for and then informing the design of our Community Parks Initiative site, Audubon Playground. It's the next phase of that playground was recently completed. So go over there and check it out. Audubon Ave between 169th and 170th. It's phenomenal. It's been such a transformation, and I really appreciate this committee's help and support in getting us to take down that temporary building and really expand that to make it an open space resource for that entire section of Washington Heights. The bathroom building is still under construction and will likely be ready for summer. We've had some issues lately and some conversations. This committee approved Gorman Park. I wanted to make sure people are aware that as part of the citywide retaining wall contract, 4 sections of the bike path uptown between 181st Street and Dykeman along the Henry Hudson Parkway are going to be repaired. Some sections of the retaining wall are adjacent to sinkholes, so the sinkholes will fortunately be addressed as part of those contracts. And those, if all continues to go well, those will start this spring.
I'm sorry, can you just repeat the part about the bike paths, which are getting redone?
From our section in Fort Washington Park, from 181 to Dykeman Street. There are 4 like sinkhole areas where we have retaining wall issues and sinkholes, and those are getting reconstructed as part of this citywide contract.
Just out of curiosity, and I know it may actually be outside of CB12, but there are many people up here who ride bikes, who have observed that there are a number of issues on the bike paths, not necessarily in CB12, but CB12 people are using them. So sorry to put you on the spot since it's not really your area, but do you have any information on similar projects that might be happening further south below 155th Street where there are some highly problematic areas?
I don't know, but I'm happy to find out. Within Community Board 12, we have the section I mentioned, the wooden deck bridge, at quote unquote, the former railroad bridge that's now Parks, south of 181st Street. That's designed, all approvals in place. And the Department of Transportation has started procurement. They're going to be constructing the project for parks. And that's expected to start late summer, early fall 2021. But south of there, I'm not sure of. On the east side, however, the city has an $88 million project that covers the area in Community Board 12 from Dykeman Street down to 155th Street. We've got some sinkhole issues there that are, that I guess it's a relieving platform that's holding up the Harlem River Drive. But if you've biked on it, you know, number one, it's incredibly old. And number two, it really needs some infrastructure repairs. But I can find out south of 155th on the west side, I presume. Liz?
Okay, yes, both.
Okay.
I've gotten feedback from both. Thank you, that's super helpful.
And then the new bathrooms at Adventure Playground, OMB had put a hold on certain projects advancing. That's going forward. I'd say late spring, early summer, likely construction start. We have a whole, oh, and big news. We are going to be having a public scoping meeting at the end of February for the Dykeman Rest. That's the northwest section of Highbridge Park. And many of you who participated in the Highbridge Anchor Parks master planning process perhaps remember that, but it's right at the 1 train. We want to sort of take that area and make it more of a gateway and make it more of an amenity for the existing and the future population. So stay tuned. We'd love the community board's help with outreach for that at the end of next month.
Great. And you said the Adventure Playground bathroom construction is late spring, late summer?
Late spring, early summer was what I was told today. Steve
Okay.
Simon may be on the call and will correct me.
Jennifer,
Yeah.
I have a question
Hold on,
about that.
Barbara, hold on a second. We're doing this in turns, and
Okay.
actually, I'm going to wait until if Jennifer's done, I'm going to recognize Danielle first. I see Danielle's got her hand up. Okay, great.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yep.
Quick question, Jennifer. And sorry if this is a silly question or if this is common knowledge, but I'm just wondering if the mulch trucks only set up in the parks or if they sort of move around, because I've noticed a lot of trees on the sidewalk, and I'm just wondering if perhaps they were in different locations, if you'd reach a larger audience. And I'm also wondering if you coordinate with the Department of Sanitation at all.
We do. It's a joint effort. We had several drop-off sites throughout the 5 boroughs. So we would get trees from those drop-off sites that are parks and bring them to the chipping sites. In Uptown, the 2 chipping sites are J Hood and Inwood. After January 9th, sanitation will pick up any trees that are left in front of residential buildings. We don't go to those. I don't know off the top of my head how many drop-off sites there are in each borough, but it's pretty considerable.
Does the Department of Sanitation mulch the trees though, or
compost them? I don't know.
Yeah, sorry.
Find out,
Okay.
but yeah, I know, you know, everybody wants to tree cycle.
Thank you.
Okay, next up,
Thank
we've
you,
got,
Danielle, for coming to Mulch Fest. It was really fun seeing you there on Saturday.
I was there too, but everybody else had left. Next up, we got Barbara and then Steve.
Jennifer, I wanted to ask, first of all, about the Dykeman Rest, which, you know, I've been interested in for several years. Will the proposed bike addition of city bike places, I know that around the number 1 stop was a place of priority or consideration. Will that affect the design for the Dykeman Rest, or is that going to impinge on the Dykeman Rest? And then secondly, I will personally contact leaders in the Dykeman houses to come to the scoping meeting. Marilyn James, Marshall Vanderpool, others, to, get the word out among the Dykeman houses. so that we
Wonderful.
can Get representation there.
Thank you, Barbara.
So there
And
is,
also from my building, from 99
great.
Hillside.
oh, great. So there is quite a bit of real estate there. I know, we've always referred to just the little triangle as Dykeman Rest, but there's a whole area east of it. That's sort of a sitting area. We plan to sort of capture as much of that as possible through this
Mhm.
project. And then there are several other sidewalk islands, I guess, or street islands within there. So I think when we're coordinating or finalizing city bike stations with DOT, we'll work with them on that. So
Okay.
I don't think it's not going to interfere with our design process because we haven't really started. But we'll
Okay.
take it into account.
Okay,
And thank you for the help with outreach.
no problem.
Steve. Steve Simon, where'd you go?
I don't know. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
On the Adventure Playground compensation, I'm more optimistic than Jennifer. The contract was just awarded, so I would say that the construction will start hopefully in the early spring. I would not say I would not mention summer.
Okay.
Excellent. Thank you so much. That's great news. And the time frame for completion is roughly what? A year, 12 months,
18.
18 months?
I will have to get back to you. It's probably at least 18 months.
Okay.
And in answer to Danielle, I believe the sanitation department does mulch the trees that it picks up on the from the curb. I don't know that that mulch ends up with the Parks Department, but I believe those trees do end up getting mulched.
Probably as part of their compost program. I forgot to mention, we also have good news on, or I did maybe last month, Inwood Nature Center was released from the hold by OMB.
Yes.
So
That's huge.
So our architecture division is trying to advance that through procurement now. We're praying for no further hiccups with FEMA and our bidding process, but if all goes according to plan and the bidder who's sort of been waiting in the wings for several months is still willing to take on the job, they're anticipating construction start by summer.
And what's the approximate timeline on the construction job?
18 to 24 months.
Okay, great. Okay.
Liz, did you want to do the design now or no?
Yes, I do. I was
Okay.
going to say,
So
next
I'll-
up, we have Inwood Hill Parks Dykeman Soccer Field. You want to do the intro on that?
Sure. So at first, everybody knows I'm Jennifer Hoppa, the administrator for Northern Manhattan Parks, but I want to introduce the team that's been working on this project and is going to be presenting tonight. Leslie Peoples is the Director of Landscape Architecture on the Manhattan Capital Team for Parks. Leslie, are you on? Yes, okay. Ricardo Hinkle is the Deputy Director of Landscape Architecture on the Manhattan Capital Team. Craig Church is the landscape architect for the project and the project manager. And everybody knows Steve Simon, the Chief of Staff for Manhattan Parks. So tonight we're presenting a project which, as many people on this committee know, is the culmination of the community's effective advocacy for several years. It's the reconstruction of Inwood Hill Park's Dykeman Soccer Field. That's at the north end of the site. And that's the latest improvement plan for our local parks. We've got roughly 660 acres of parkland uptown, but as many of you know, much of it is sloped. And that defines how it can be used. So flat spaces for active recreation are really at a premium. Dykeman Soccer Field is mostly flat, and it's an area where we can help meet the growing demand for soccer, which is a community priority. I think several people on this call came to the first public scoping meeting we had for this in November of 2019. There was a lot of constructive input from members of the soccer community, the sports community, the elected officials. The community very clearly conveyed that given the need for year-round soccer and given the high levels of use at Dykeman Soccer Field, that parks should not construct a natural grass field, which is basically what's already there. They underscored that it would be difficult to maintain. It would not suit the needs of the adults and the youth who play soccer there. It would require seasonal being shut down to allow for lawn restoration and fencing of the area to allow lawn to grow. And it would also require extensive irrigation for sustaining the lawn. The council member also urged parks to take the community priorities seriously and to revisit the design to find a solution to meet the need for year-round and a high level of play. So we did that, and it took some additional time and some additional mayoral funding to bring the community the project that they had prioritized. We're glad we're able to be providing a new synthetic turf soccer field. It'll be available year-round. It'll be available shortly after rain falls. It won't be unplayable for several days while it dries out, and which is the case with the current field. We're also leveling the field so that it will no longer slope down, making it.
I'm sorry, are you saying that you're literally going to level the playing field?
We are.
You heard it here first.
And as you can see, when Craig and Ricardo and Leslie walk us through the presentation, we've really attempted to utilize every foot of available space. This is the second new soccer field that we're going to be providing to the community. Many of you know we just opened one at Highbridge Park, so at 175th Street. So thank you to everybody who's collaborated to date with us in getting us where we are now, the soccer leagues, the after-school soccer clubs, soccer experts, announcers, refs. Thank you so much for bringing us to this point in our design process, and we're excited to be presenting this to the Parks and Cultural Affairs Committee tonight. So I'm going to turn it over to Craig to walk us through the presentation for the committee's consideration.
Just before we do that, I just want to note the arrival of our Assistant Chair, Daryl Cochrane, and our other remaining member, Aisha Ogilvy. Thank you. Glad to know everybody is in the house. And can you just tell me again, what was the date of the scoping meeting in 2000?
November 2019 at Payson Park House.
Got it. Thanks.
Okay, the question I have is, do I need to screen share with what I have with the presentation, or do you have it?
You want me to screen share, Craig, and then you can run me through it?
Yeah, if you could screen share, because I do have it, but I'd have to find it, and you probably have it right here.
Okay.
Fantastic.
All right, so while Ricardo's doing that, I'd just like to say thanks everyone for coming. And I'm here to discuss some of the design aspects of the project. As you can see from the cover slide, we have approximately 8.72 million of mayoral funds for this. And the overall size is 2.6 acres. Let's go to the next slide. This is some of our goals. And it is to provide a year-round soccer facility for local leagues, after school, summer programs, and pickup games. We want to keep errant balls within the play zone and away from the Hudson River by providing a 12-foot chain link fence around it, especially on the west side. We want to capture stormwater with an on-site stormwater retention detention system. We want to protect existing trees, and we want to extend water service to drinking fountains and a mister if it's feasible. Right now, we're not sure about the condition of the water line. Here's the location of the field. It lies at the northern end of Inwood Park between the Hudson River and the Henry Hudson Parkway. Next slide. Here, this shows the site tilted to where north is on the right and south is on the left. We've got a comfort station near Dykeman Street and the pier at the marina. The entry, there's only one entry, pedestrian entry at Dykeman Street. And with that, there are two paths that follow north, that flow north on the east side and on the west side of the park. There's no access to the Hudson River at any point along this park except at the pier. There are 4 softball fields located within the park, extensive picnic areas, a hockey rink where they teach people how to ride bicycles. And as you can see from the dotted outline, that is our project site. There's also one other access point over the Amtrak right-of-way from Inwood Hill Park on the east side. To the north of the proposed field is a practice field for when games are occurring. Next slide. Okay, this is a view looking to the north of the field. And it's not properly graded. This is a very nice photo. Usually in bad weather, it doesn't look this way. And some of the problems are it's not properly graded. The field is too flat in some areas, too steep in others, especially along the eastern edge. It's rutted and pitted throughout with large utility cover in the middle, with a large utility manhole cover in the middle. And it is a risk to players during the play. Next slide. This is a view looking south. You can see along the right side there's a large mature tree. And the lines that you can see do not provide proper playing field dimensions with the required safety setbacks. Right now, the safety area is the walkway and the tree and the light poles, which is not safe for players. Next slide. This shows some of the features in the park, the Christie Forsyth benches, B12 type poles, and you can see the size of that mature tree on the right. And we have a steel picket fence that lies along the west side. Next slide. This view is further to the south and it lies along the softball fields. It's the 12-foot fence, which we will incorporate into our design, and one of the B12 light poles. Next slide. The site falls within the city's residency map of 2015. So our baseline flood elevation is 13 feet. So based on the way the design works, half the field will fall within the flood zone up to the 13-foot contour line. Here's a view of the field, overall view. And the size of the field, I talked with Mr. David Sykes about this. He's with Uptown Soccer. And the play area will be roughly 147 by 300 feet. The total turf area is 182 by 340. And that's to provide safety zones all around. Up to the left corner, we're going to have an entrance there, which will be at grade, and hopefully provide a drinking fountain and a mister if it's feasible. We're going to reconstruct the asphalt walkway to provide utilities, and there will be an entrance in the middle where we have the outline seating area. That seating area will have an entrance to it with a 5% grade with a ramp that's approximately 13 feet long. And then we'll have 7 benches for onlookers for the game, participants of the game. To the north of that is a mature tree, and we had to provide a very large flush tree pit. And we will also put the chain link fence along the west edge. And then you can see how it turns to the east at the end to help provide or prevent balls from going errant into the Hudson. There will be 2 movable goals. And next slide, please. Oh, let me talk about the drainage. We're going to divide the drainage into 2 parts. Go back to the previous slide, please. And there will be a subsurface containment facility to the north to help prevent the field from flooding during severe storm events. Next slide. Okay, I talked with Mr.
You said
David
that's at
Sykes
the
about the
north?
dimensions of this field, and one of the things that we had to do was, next slide. He at first had asked for about 150 feet by 300, but due to the fact that he required more of a clear zone on the eastern edge, we moved it out to 8 feet. And so the overall dimension will be 147 by 300. The north edge will have, and the south edge will have 20-foot clear zones. And the western edge will have a 20-foot clear zone as well. And we can't really move that because of that very large tree on the west edge. Okay, next slide. This shows the seating area. We have approximately 7 benches for participants. And there will be a curb that surrounds that tree pit, and the tree pit will be flush. And we'll see that in a later section in this presentation. You can see the entrance with the 5% ramp and some of the refurbished lighting. We'll also have a drainage inlet for the surface, but the field also contains extensive subsurface drainage that will be tied in with that utility line that we're going to put underneath the asphalt walkway. Next slide. These are the 2 sections showing a view along the west side where the Hudson is. And you can see where the floodwaters will encroach upon the field towards the midsection. And then we have one where the Amtrak right-of-way is, into enlargement 2, and where there'll be a curb. Let's go to the first section. Next slide. This is how it will look. Going from left to right, you got the synthetic turf, and then there's that flush curb that will hold the turf in place. And towards the center of the tree, which is the 36-inch diameter tree, there'll be an 8% grade down to the center. And this will help us increase the survivability of that tree. We'll have the 1939 World's Fair benches, new lighting, and then we'll have the 12-foot chain link fence, which will be mounted on a 12-inch wide curb, which will not exceed 12 inches in height. And then is the asphalt walkway to the right. Okay, next slide. Here's enlargement 2, which is the Amtrak right-of-way. And you can see from this section that we had to do a little bit of grading to flatten the field for an overall 1% grade. Again, that curb will not exceed 18 inches anywhere around. It will also serve as the anchor for the synthetic turf. Next slide. This is the fence diagram. Like I said previously, the ends are turned in 20 feet so that we can help with containment of the soccer balls. Next slide. And here's some of the site furniture. We've got goals that will be movable, benches, the B12 light with Riverside Park luminaires in the 1939 World's Fair bench, and the high-low drinking fountain. that we hope to be able to provide in the end. Next slide. This is the overall view again. And the turf will be composed of it will be a synthetic turf with an infill style fill with tufted nylon and sand. There'll be shock pads below it on top of a broken stone, which will be the base to help provide drainage below. With that, any questions?
Yeah, hold on a second. I just 7-foot fence on the east. So in order that people raise their hands, we've got Naima, Nobles, and Danielle.
Steve had his hand up too, but I didn't know if that.
Yeah, but then he put his hand down.
Oh, okay, thanks.
And then Barbara. So Naima,
Hi, Liz.
Mine's up too.
oh, and Daryl, okay.
Hi, everyone. Good evening.
Hi.
So my question is just, I have two questions. The first one is, how exactly will the walkway be reconstructed? And the second question is, why not put the seating area on the side of the Amtrak row? Like, why is it in the walkway area? Because I know that this is a soccer field and that's the whole purpose for it, but that's still like, for example, I jog along that path often. And so, you know, that's still an area that a lot of people use. So
Right.
is is having those, that seating area going to, you know, narrow the walkway even more than what it is?
No,
That's my concern.
No, not at all. Currently, there are 4 benches located there. And if you notice, the field is slightly arced on top. So that provides us the clearance we need for the soccer field. At the 2 corners, the south corner and the north corner, it's crimped. That's 20 feet. That's what we have. So in drawing a straight line across from the south to the north, we only have enough room to fit those benches. If you put it on the other side, we're still stuck. We don't have any room for clearance for people to sit there, and we'd have to put a path for people to go around. And
Okay. So what
This-
you're
We're-
saying is
we
that
have
in
to-
order
we
to
have to
actually,
make it ADA accessible, so if we have seating, so then
Right.
we would have to pave along the
Right.
southern end of the field and connect it to where the benches would be along the Amtrak right away. And
okay. So
Okay.
basically, in order to maintain like whatever the dimensions are necessary for a soccer field,
Right.
there wouldn't be space for it in the Amtrak row area, like around
Right.
that's what it is. All right.
Also,
and
your
we
second
couldn't make it
question,
ADA.
on your second question, this does not change the width of the path, the asphalt path that exists. We're going to remove what's there and provide areas where we can put utilities below grade. We're actually going to raise it up maybe about an inch or 2 so that we can get a little bit of extra elevation for that ramp that's located there.
Thank you, Craig.
No problem.
Thank you. Before I go to the next question, I just want to let people know that if you're in the audience, please do feel free to raise your hand or to throw your questions in the chat. And after we have this round of committee questions, I'll take a lap through the public. So next up, Steve.
No, Craig ended up covering the points I wanted him to
Great.
raise.
Okay, thanks. Nobles?
Hey, Craig, this is an awesome design. It makes me want to pick up soccer again. And you know what's funny? I've never been to this section of Inwood Park. I've always gone to the Hudson, and I've been inland a little bit more, but never this particular piece. So I'm definitely going to check it out this weekend. Thank you for this design. I think it's extremely intuitive. It seems like a lot of thought, obviously, went into it. So kudos to that. I'm known on this board as the trash can man. Where are the trash cans on here? Because we know that soccer fields are pretty long to walk, and even though we're looking at this on a PowerPoint, we know the distance here to the front of it. Are they just not represented here yet, just because they haven't made those decisions, or?
Well, there's a
something else?
trash can right at the south entrance, right at that corner. It's just not,
Oh, it's not called out.
yeah, it's not called.
Oh, okay, then cool. And it's
Sorry about that.
Mister is just like mist coming down, right? Like from the tower thing that you showed in the picture before. I'm just not familiar with that.
Which picture?
The sports mister?
Oh, the sports mister, yes. Yes, it comes out of the top and players and whoever can
It's like a
stand
cool
below
down
it.
thing for heat.
Yeah, in periods of hot weather. And we put it at the south corner because we're hoping we can get the water line that far.
Hmm.
And it can be accessible for people in other parts of the park that are not playing soccer.
I've never seen that creature comfort in any of the other parks that we have. That's really cool.
The mister was required because our synthetic turf fields in the past were hotter, and their temperatures were regularly getting, up to and above 100 degrees. That's when we were using a rubber crumb infill. We're not doing that anymore. We're using a sand infill. So we don't expect the temperatures to go as hot as they have in the past, but we've still been providing misters when possible.
I love it.
I'm not sure whether or not we're going to be able to provide this one. So we're showing it conditionally.
You got it. Thank you so much for the work, folks. This is great.
Thank you. Danielle?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, thanks so much for the presentation. I have a few clarification questions. So I'm not sure if you mentioned this, but how does the size of the field compare to a professional field? Is it the same size or is it smaller?
It's slightly smaller. It's about a junior size field.
Okay.
Greg, it might be helpful for Danielle. I don't know if you've been there. This is roughly double the size of the field we just put in at Highbridge.
Right, right. This
Okay,
is roughly double the size because of the fact that we have those clear zones and they may not have that there.
Oh, great. Also, I don't remember what you said about replacing the light.
Yes. Currently, there are 5 lights in there. They're the same type, the B12 with the Riverside Park luminaires.
Is it the light fixture or the bulb? So it's the bulb that's being replaced, not the actual fixture itself?
Oh, the fixture itself. They're going to be new. We're going to replace them and put new fixtures in.
Okay, so there isn't a concern about preserving the I'm not sure what year that was installed, but there isn't a concern about retaining that older sort of historic fixture?
Those look like fixtures that were put in not too long ago.
It's not a historic,
Not
it's not a
historic.
historic fixture.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, great.
We're using the same fixtures. I think we're concerned in any new installation, we want to make sure they all work. If they're working and they're 12 feet, we want to make sure they're 12 feet so they can't be vandalized. If they're in good working order and they're 12 feet, then we might not replace them. So we might just replace some of them. We'll have to see the condition more closely as we develop the design.
Okay, and 2 more super quick questions. Regarding the water fountain, I'm super glad that you're gonna have the reusable bottle portion, but is it possible to have a no-touch fountain? I'm not sure because of the design, the way it sort of, no? Okay.
Good idea. That's a good idea. But I haven't seen it.
It requires.
Yeah, I raised this point when we were talking about the renovation of the baseball fields in Inwood Hill Park, and it's come to my attention that there's actually a fountain in Van Cortlandt Park that has a no-touch pedal. So I haven't personally seen it myself, but I just wondered if moving forward, given COVID and if the city would be
A foot activated one we would look into. We're still, remember that the drinking fountain is also conditional based on what we discover of the existing kind of ancient water service to the south.
Okay, and then last question, did you consider at all, and I'm sure it would be costly, installing a bathroom, just given the length of this park and the fact that there is sort of space at the very end where the park loops around? Did you consider installing a bathroom?
Yes, I think Leslie would be able to address what was researched on that, and it's not feasible.
It's cost prohibitive. That's what we discovered. Because of we have to bring in an entirely new sewer system, sewer line, and water line, and it would just be cost prohibitive.
Yeah. And because of the distance from Dyckman Street, there'd have to be a pump station installed.
Yeah, it would require over 2,000 linear feet of new utilities. So that would make it even more expensive than our regular comfort stations. And that wasn't funded in this project.
So if you could, just for the sake, I mean, cost prohibitive, we certainly understand that qualitatively, but quantitatively, can you give us a sense of how cost prohibitive is cost prohibitive? Just curious.
That we're actually the landscape architects and not the architect. So we would need to get you numbers from our architects and then from engineers to run those lines all the way up. So we can get back to you through Steve.
It would be helpful because just, you know, as something that I know, you know, from having been at any of these meetings, our default position is always, but what about bathrooms? So when people ask, but what about bathrooms? Sure, saying 2,000 feet of blah, blah lines and a pump station, whatever, that makes a good argument, but being able to say, comma, and it would cost, I don't know, you know, $12 million or $5 million or some amount of money, you know, that becomes a little bit more meaningful and also becomes, maybe that's the thing that we want to say to our elected officials, okay, but that's what we would like for you to fund. Because
and Liz,
in theory, if it were funded, you could put it there.
Liz, can I just chime in on this one point?
Yes.
Before my questions? And I just want to be clear, and I don't know if everyone on the board knows that area very well. I do. I go there all the time. The far northern end is not a good place for a bathroom, and I don't think many in the community want. It's one of the more scenic areas that people like to actually sit and have passive recreation. So that would, I don't know if you measure, you know, by the feet, but we would not want to go all the way to the tip there. Maybe between the hockey rink and the field. I don't know how much space is there, but definitely not all the way at the end.
Yeah,
I was still speaking. I haven't finished my point. So
you know, I was just like clarifying for her.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Well, so I guess my point. I'm advocating for the installation of a bath, or bringing up the point of wondering whether that was considered in this plan, and also advocating for a bathroom, especially. I mean, the length of this park is very long. I'm not sure of the exact time.
I think we lost you, Danielle.
Yeah, I think
mentions, but especially given that we're installing
Danielle, we just totally lost the last 30 seconds. So if you could just repeat everything you just said, because your screen was frozen and we missed it all.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, I was just saying that, I mean, I raised this just as something, I was wondering if it had been considered in the plan, but I'm also advocating for it because I think, you know, to install a field without also having, you know, bathrooms is sort of like the trash cans, but this is also a biological need for folks. And the park is quite long. I recognize that it is a sort of historic area, but still it's a biological need. So
this is a point of reference. It's 2,800 feet to the soccer field from Dyckman.
I just wanted to add.
Okay. Wait, hold on. We're getting a little bit out of order. I want to just recognize that I know, Danielle, you have some additional questions, but I want to take a lap through the other questions. So we've got Barbara, then we've got Steve, and then I'm going to go through the public. Barbara?
My turn?
Yes.
Okay.
Liz, and then me, you forgot me.
Oh, I'm sorry, and Daryl after Barbara.
Fine. I wanted to add, first of all, I am very familiar with this area. I was originally the regional commissioner for the American Youth Soccer Organization and started the youth soccer group was there every Saturday for several years. So I'm very aware of the ups and downs of the area. Apropos the bathroom issue, I have always advocated that a bathroom be constructed after the second baseball field, which is sort of midway down the area. And quite frankly, when you talk about the biological need, frankly, what happens on Saturdays is that participants just jump over the fence and do their business in the river. And that's what goes on all the time. So that's the reality. People do not walk back to Dyckman Street. So if I would like it to be explored that after the second baseball field before the hockey rink, the possibility of putting a midway bathroom in. And I think that's a reasonable approach. And then people would walk down from the soccer field or go over from the baseball fields. But to think people would walk down to Dyckman Street has never happened. So that's my comment on that. And I would like the committee to request Parks look at that. And then the other thing is, as I don't know if people know, but this field there, this park there is built on landfill. It was landfill from, oh gosh, I can't remember. I used to know. So my question is, since we're building up this synthetic thing on sand and gravel and such, is there any possibility it will shift? So that is my first question. My second is, when we had youth there playing soccer, the 300-foot was too long. And for youth under 12 years old, we had to shorten the field, and we always had portable field goals to make it shorter. Is there any modification in the markings, or are you going to be supplying goals or something for a shorter modified field?
Well, that is a part of the design, is that the goals will be movable, so they can make the soccer field any size they want for juniors. Also, in your first question,
Great.
the field will be surrounded on 3 sides by 8-inch curves. So that will help prevent any shifting, so to speak, of the turf substrate and the turf itself. You know, you have to remember too that this field is going to be partially in a flood zone, and normally Parks doesn't design synthetic turf fields in flood zones. It's against our practice. But because there was such a strong community desire for it, we decided to go for it. And this is it.
Okay, well, I think.
Can I answer the question about the settlement issue and the concern? Because I believe the fill has been in place long enough that the natural settlement has probably already occurred. And there will be a lot of compaction in the construction, and there will be a 1 foot deep broken stone gravel foundation. So there will be compaction of the subgrade, and then there will be a 1 foot deep broken stone subgrade, and then we'll have the synthetic turf on top. So we'll make sure that it is very stable and secure.
Okay, fine.
Thank you. Daryl?
Yeah, good evening. First, I just want to concur with Barbara, what she said about the bathroom location. And Barbara, I didn't know your soccer history. If we get a soccer team together for the community board, I want you on my team.
Okay.
But just a few
1983. 1986.
Wow. The benches, like the northern tip of that area, that's not being touched at all, right? You don't go that far for anything, correct?
As far as what? I'm sorry, repeat the question.
Like the northern tip by the circle, the turnaround?
No, we don't go that far.
No.
Okay. I'm just making sure.
This is the northern edge of our work.
Okay.
Okay.
And how much space is in between the chain link fence and the border of the actual field?
Between the chain link fence, it's about 25 feet in the middle. But on the south and north ends, it's exactly 20 feet.
So beside the seating area, people could put lawn chairs or whatever to watch if they want to do that.
Yes, there's room for them to do that there.
Okay. And in the seating area, are there spaces? It is accessible, I'm assuming. And are there spaces for
There's
wheelchair
companion
specific?
seating, yes.
There's what seating?
Companion seating, we call them companion seating.
Oh, okay.
Wheelchair space. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And then for the drinking fountain, you said, you basically need to see what's happening with the pipes and stuff. Will you be changing at all the drinking fountain that's at the far south end outside this area?
That's over here.
No.
Yeah.
Okay.
If we're not able to facilitate putting a drinking fountain here, that will be the drinking fountain.
We'll see if we can do that.
I mean, it's a little old and they need an update was my point to that.
The existing water surface is very old, and we're not even sure we can upgrade existing facilities that are on it, much less extend it. But that would be our plan B, is to upgrade what's there to make it ADA, because right now it's not ADA.
And then just lastly, there are benches on the outside of the chain link fence, correct?
No, not in this plan. They're all on the inside.
To the south, you
Just
showed it earlier, Craig, to the south of here.
Oh, yes,
There are
yes.
benches that face the river.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. And those are being repaired or added onto, or?
No.
It's outside of the scope of this. My team would make repairs to those with the Borough Crew's help, resurfacing the slats or replacing the slats.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Also some picnic tables.
Barbara, that's a different area. That's south of the hockey rink, and that's outside the scope of this project.
Yeah.
Steve?
Yeah, I just want to say, I'm checking my my files to see if I can get you the estimate that we did on the comfort station. We did have some people spend some considerable time trying to figure out what it would cost to do the comfort station. And my memory is that we were looking.
Steve, I would actually wait on that so that we can look at recent costs and the engineering cost. I'll be happy to get you those costs, but I believe the old estimate is a couple years old.
Was it that long ago?
It was a couple of years, at least 2 or more. So I really want to look at it first.
Okay, but just to be clear, when you get us that estimate, what we are requesting an estimate for is something that's at the southern end of this.
No, it was in the middle. It's in the middle of the site. We looked at doing it somewhere between the ball fields and this turf and this field.
Right, we never went all the way north. Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, but just to be clear, so it wouldn't necessarily be is that still the 2,000 feet of water piping to that?
No, it's probably less. It's probably about 1,500.
Okay.
But again, let us just check it, make sure that it's escalated to the right year, and we'll get you the price.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, so taking a lap through the public, I just want to I'm going to ask some of the questions that are in the chat. Is there a restriction on how near a high-speed train right-of-way you can have pedestrians?
Not that we're aware of, as long as they're on the other side of the fence and it's outside of the right of way.
Okay.
And remember that fence is the Amtrak fence. That's not a parks fence.
Okay. There was a question and it got partially answered. Somebody asked about the benches being turned towards the river or have group benches facing that way, but I think that was answered by Jennifer's response that the existing benches a little bit further down are going to stay in place and the benches at the northern tip are going to stay in place. There was a question about bike locks, somewhere to lock up bicycles, not just, not just light poles and fencing, which is going to be damaging to either of those. So if that can be included in the design, would be helpful.
We can certainly put bike racks in the design.
Great. And then we've got a question from Roberto Abramowitz. I'm going to unmute him so he can ask his question.
Hi there, guys. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Hi, Liz. Hi, everybody.
Hi.
A couple of things that I've been involved in helping out with this throughout. So I heard that we have a 12-foot fence on the riverside, correct?
Yes.
What about behind the goals and on the east side?
That was considered previously, but due to the expense, we left it off, and the wall will be able to provide fences behind the goals at a later time, but not within this scope of work.
Because it's going to be important when people shoot the ball and try to shoot hard on goal. I mean, a ball can travel easily 30, 40 yards if it misses a target.
Right. But what you can't really see in this design in the plan view is that the wall behind the goals is actually 12 inches thick. The rest of the curb is 8 inches thick up to the wall behind the goals. So at a later date, those walls can be core drilled and fences installed. But like I said, at this point, it's not a part of our scope, and we're trying to conserve as much funding to get this field built.
I would add, though, that if there is sufficient will from this group to put some kind of fencing behind the goals to prevent the balls from going too far. We designed this with the thought that because the open space to the north and south is not, there's not a critical hazard or any public safety problem if the people just overrun to fetch the ball. We didn't think it was fetching the ball was a problem. There was nothing, to harm anybody, as opposed to on the other side of this fence, if it should go into the river, we don't want to encourage people to go into the river to fetch it. So we didn't think it was, but from a public safety point of view, necessary. We are open to reconsidering that, in light of public demand.
From a playing perspective, I think it's critical, especially, you don't want, I mean, for a plethora of reasons, aside from the fact that you may lose a ball, the game has to stop now while somebody goes and chases a ball 30, 40 yards for it. It'll probably change the way you want to shoot if you want to do that, because you're afraid that the ball is going to go into the river, if you hit it at the wrong angle, if you hit it from the side and not just straight on. I mean, you could still go into the river, and quite easily, because if the fence ends just behind the goals, I mean, if you're shooting from the right side of the box going north and you shoot to the far post, you miss that, the ball's in the river. Mm-hmm. So there's a whole bunch of logistical reasons for it from a playing point of view. So I would think that a fence behind, and I think that 12 yards is, or 12 feet is okay up until maybe the box, and then it should be higher as well behind the goals, is something that through my experience, I would really highly suggest. I have a second question, but based on the first one, I don't think it's going to fly, but I will ask it anyway. Considering the fact that there is no housing anywhere near there, lights would definitely help people being able to play at night, obviously, and as things get darker earlier in the night. I mean, like on a night like tonight, people could play if there were lights there. Is there any chance at all that lighting can be added to this?
There really is no funding for it. And again, this would be a much higher price than our standard light poles for sports because of the run that we would need to make all the way up from Dyckman. So you're talking a 2,000 foot run of a lighting connection all the way up. It's again cost prohibitive. It could be done if funding was available.
What about the lights with solar panels? That way you don't have to run electricity. They get charged up by solar panels.
Not for sports lighting. I mean, the 50-foot tall poles that we would use for sports lighting, we would not use. I don't even know if they make those.
We haven't piloted the use of those yet, so we're uncertain we would use them. It would be a separate project, separate from this, because I think finding the funding for that would set this project back a year plus.
So I want to. I'm certainly willing to bring back into the committee a discussion on how we feel about lighting and, possibly adding that in as a recommendation for a future project, but it is a huge cost. I mean, it's interesting because it is away from housing, so it would not have the kinds of objection that lighting frequently does have, but I don't think anybody would want to pause the project to wait for the funding for that piece of it, since that's something that really could, if it were funded, be added later. I want to circle back to the idea of increasing the height, the amount of fencing and the height of the fencing. I certainly understand the, pretty obvious argument around the mechanics of the game and why a fence would be necessary and helpful. I do also want to remind everybody that in this project, as with any other project, we're always balancing multiple, often competing needs. And I suspect that while, it's certainly appropriate to have the fence that's proposed now, I am quite sure that there are going to be people who will not like it, because part of the charm of that area is being able to walk on the fields and have this beautiful, very long eye, unobstructed view with no fence. So I understand that the community wants soccer fields and that a fence is necessarily a part of that. But I can see selling this fence. I think I'd have a harder time selling to the community at large, not all of whom are soccer players, to what is essentially a 12-foot high fenced box. So my guess is part of the reason why you as designers made these choices was to accommodate a competing aesthetic that is beyond the needs of soccer. Yes?
That was a very astute observation. It's actually exactly what we were thinking, that in similar contexts where it's open green to the north and south, that we do want to continue the continuity of a green corridor, and we do not want to interrupt it with fencing. And we don't do it in other situations where we have similar north and south greenery because of that continuity. So that's
Okay.
absolutely correct.
So just out of curiosity, all the committee members, if I can get everybody with their video on, show of hands on people's thoughts about adding fencing or keeping this fencing as it is. Those in favor of adding fence, of, requesting that additional fencing be added, hands up. Keeping fencing as is, hands up. No strong opinions, hands up. Okay, so I would propose keeping it as it is. So we've got, so it looks like either no strong opinions or keep it as is, and I didn't see any hands up for more fencing. So I'm gonna go with, sorry, Roberto, I hear where you're coming from, but I think there's a reason why the design looks the way it does.
Liz, and can I just
Yeah.
ask once this is like up and running, can we, maybe survey the people that use this to see if that's something they would want, since that is something we could always go back.
Yeah,
and-
well, he did, Ricardo did say that I don't remember if it was Ricardo or Craig, but did say that the way that the curb is built, that is something that could be added later.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's correct.
We will.
Okay.
And can I ask one unrelated question? to
Actually,
that?
hold on. I just want to finish the final lap through the questions from the public. Jerry Culligan would like to know, how long will the path be closed for construction, and where will the contractor supply and setup area be during construction?
Well, I was anticipating to the south, and that right adjacent to the hockey rink would be the staging area. But again, that would have to be determined by whatever contractor is selected for the project and how they want to work.
Okay, and what's the approximate time period for the area to be closed and unusable?
Well, most of our projects are what, 18 months to 2 years?
This one I think would be a 1 year. This is probably a 1 year.
1 year project.
Yeah. 1 year.
And the entire area would be off limits while it's under construction?
Yes, to the north of the hockey rink would be off limits.
We
Okay.
might put a construction fence right along here that would block off northern access completely.
Okay, well, that'll be a bummer, but it'll be nice when it's finished. Okay, so I do want to, I have a question, and that is about the water. So this now I assume you need a resolution?
Yes, we do.
Okay, so then when we're done with the Q&A, we'll figure out what the resolution is, but I would like to just really stress I would like to put words to the obvious. You've heard a lot of people talking about water. We all really want it. I know that you can't say now what the underlying conditions are like, so I'm not going to ask a question because you can't possibly answer it. But I think I'm speak for everyone when I say in the strongest possible terms that we really, really want a water fountain, that spray feature, and whatever can be done to ensure that would be great, because those are really important features of this.
We really, really want that too, Liz.
Okay.
We're pushing for it.
And foot operated would be, I mean, I think that that's really kind of the way to go now. Not that we really thought of that very much a year ago, but.
Okay, we will look into that. We always look into new products, but all of our products need to be very vandal resistant and very tough. So,
We can ask the Bronx team how the foot operated one at Van Cortlandt Park is doing and see.
We will. Okay.
Okay. I've got Naima and then Danielle.
Hi, Liz. So I just want to make sure that I understand, because it went over my head, the whole fence being 12 feet. So will above the field, will there be a ceiling, or is it just fences around?
No
And
upper.
will the fences look like the fences on the baseball fields, the big black long
Yes.
fence? That's what it's going to
Yes.
look like?
Yes.
Correct.
No overhang.
Right.
Okay.
Only on the west side,
When you say west side, where is that on the map? Sorry.
along the Hudson River side.
Oh, this is where it would go, right?
The
here.
pink dot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so the fence, the 12-foot fence would only be in that area.
Yes.
Just to prevent balls from going in the river.
Okay, and then it won't be, where the sports missed that line and then where the subgrade that line. So technically the view to the end of the island will not be blocked by the field.
Right.
Correct.
Okay. So, I mean, in terms of voting for it, I know we did the vote for it, but I'm not really opposed to that fence being there because
Right.
we can still enjoy the beautiful.
Right, we got that. So the question was, are we okay with it the way it is, or do we want more fencing? And I think that's pretty much been asked and answered, so I'm gonna move on
Well,
to
thank you.
Danielle and then Daryl.
Yeah, my question is also about fencing. I was hoping just return to that for a moment. So I want to understand. So the fence on the Hudson River side is going to be installed just to prevent balls, or I thought it had to do with the turf or the grade just for the balls.
Well, that 12-foot fence will be supported by a 12-inch curb. So it's kind of both. It serves as sort of a retaining wall as well as supporting the fence. And to secure the turf in place, the turf has to be secured to a curb. That's what that curb will do.
Got it. So I mean, field has been there for, I don't know how long it's been there, but there hasn't been a fence previously. So I'm just wondering if it's only to secure the turf, why not install a sort of shorter fence, and then perhaps we can entertain the idea of, I don't know who the person was that recommended the fence behind the goalpost, but perhaps we could have a higher fence there. And I'd also potentially like to change my vote, because I think it is a good idea to have something sort of protecting the balls from flying behind the goals, because I think that's where, I mean, I'm not a soccer player, so somebody please chime in who knows soccer, but I imagine that the greatest amount of force kicking the ball is going to be in the direction of the goalpost and not necessarily toward the side of the field.
Can you
So
flip back
I
the
wonder
slides? Can you flip the slides back to the map so that Danielle can see where this area is and can see the amount of land north of that northern goal?
Yes, I guess what I'm
photograph. The photograph.
So there's all of this area here.
Yeah, if we put a fence there, it would block the view actually from the rest of like it's a really nice view there. Like the fence where it's at right now, it wouldn't really block too much of a view because that's the same view that you can get if you walk left, like as if you're walking out of the park. But walking towards the right, it's a beautiful sight. It's really the end of the island. And so if you put fences behind the goalposts, then you're really blocking like a really pretty view that you wouldn't get anywhere else in the park.
And I think it's
I walk that park all the time, and I guess my thought is that if it could potentially help to keep to that person's point that spoke previously, if it could keep the balls in the area, and if you're spending all this money to invest on a soccer field, I don't know. It seems like maybe we're not. I mean, I'm not sure. I don't think there's a right answer here, but it seems like the right thing to do to install something to keep the balls in the field that we're spending all this money on. But I also wondered about that fence on the Hudson side, about how tall that was going to be, and if there's a way to sort of keep that as low as possible.
The request that we got at the scope meeting, I think it was in October of 2019.
November.
Was it November? I'm sorry. The players were very concerned, were most concerned about the balls going into the Hudson. They did not express concern about kicking the balls too far to the north or south. It was really just to prevent the balls from going in the Hudson, because that's a risky thing, where if the balls go into the Hudson, you can't fetch it, or it becomes hazardous. Whereas if it goes to the north or south, you just run after it, just, you work out a little bit more, but it doesn't present any hazards, or you don't lose your ball that way.
Exactly. If there was a playground there, I would probably say we need fences there because the kids running around and the ball coming down, but there's not.
Right. I mean, just to be clear, what is north of this field is 200 yards of open green space. And again, I think that one of the responsibilities that we always have in any project is balancing the context of the whole area. If all we were doing was building a soccer field, we would probably build it a little bit differently, but we're not. We're building a soccer field that's in a park that is used for things other than soccer. So we have to balance the use of, we have to balance the entire context of all of the many people. So in the same way that, you know, sometimes it's yes dogs or no dogs, or yes barbecue or no barbecue, or we're going to have kids or we're going to have old people, or we're going to, you know, we make choices based on multiple competing, conflicting, overlapping uses. So are there other questions on the presentation? Because it's 8 o'clock, we still have our
Yeah, there was
table,
me.
and Daryl, I did it to you again.
Always, Liz.
It's because you don't use the raised hand feature.
I'm like your Mr. Cellophane.
Right, but you don't, there's a raised hand feature that.
Yeah,
has
but
a
I don't
little-
think I can use it because I'm one of the hosts now.
You can, oh.
Yeah. Yes.
Anyway, okay.
It's different. But my question was, given the dimensions of this compared to what was in Highbridge, are there other uses for it, you know, in sports or other things?
Football. I would.
This was designed to be not only a soccer field, but for a multi-use.
It's multi.
For, you know, frisbee football or whatever else people want to do, and the goals can be moved to allow that. So this is considered a multi-use field.
Okay.
Okay. I forgot, there's one other question in the chat. What does it cost per month to provide a portable toilet, a chemical toilet? I am guessing that's like an operating cost that would be apart from this funding. So that would be something that Jennifer or Steve could speak to in terms of, tell us a little bit about chemical toilets.
At some sites in the past, pre-COVID, we have allowed, like this one, we have allowed teams that have permits for the field.
There's something very strange with your sound.
Can you hear me now?
It sounds a little bit like somebody's been kidnapped and you're calling about the ransom.
Accurate.
I can't write in the chat, sorry, but we let leagues have dedicated porta-sands when they're permitted.
I see. Okay, thank you. All right, so seeing no additional questions in the chat regarding this project, seeing no additional raised hands on the committee, it sounds like there's, as everybody who's been to these meetings knows, I like to try and just get consensus on what it is that we're agreeing to, and then I will write up the resolution, circulate it to the committee members so that people can correct the extent to which I did or did not capture what we actually discussed and agreed to. But it sounds like there is consensus in favor of this proposal, that we strongly want the water, which we understand is beyond your control and based on subsurface conditions, which are at the moment unknown, that we would like a bathroom, and we understand that's outside the scope of this project, but if it could be funded either magically as part of this project or as soon as possible as part of some other project, we really want and need that. That we would like, if there is water, for there to be a foot operated fountain, that I think, other than capturing in the various whereases, what's the purpose of this and why does it look the way it does, and that we're balancing the multi-use needs and trying to while also preserving the view. I don't think there are any other asks that we were particularly looking for.
A bike rack?
Beg your pardon. Oh, and bike racks.
Yeah.
Thank you. And also that I think it probably makes sense to make explicit that we know that it's in a floodplain, but that we support it anyway, and we recognize that that's unusual to go ahead with this project, because I assume that the Public Design Commission, that's going to be the first question that they ask. So I feel like it's appropriate to have that language in the resolution. Have I missed anything, committee?
No, I think you're good.
Can someone tell me where's this funding coming from? It's 8.something million, $8.72 million, and it's all from the council member?
It's mayoral money and NDF, Neighborhood Development Fund.
Liz, did you include, sorry if I didn't hear this, did you include that we're advocating for consideration of bathrooms?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry.
Yes. Absolutely.
And the trash cans are in the plan, Nobles?
Yes, there's one.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I don't think we need to specifically call out the trash cans because they're in the plan. They just weren't in one of the pictures.
It doesn't need to be in the resolution, but it should be
Right.
said that there are no recycling cans, which again, to the
It's an
dismay.
ongoing problem.
Yes.
Okay, so show of hands, members of the committee in favor. So that's going to be Alexis, Etta, Daryl, Nobles, Danielle. Sally, is your hand up? Sally, Naima, Francisco.
Liz, can you
Barbara.
record Aisha in favor? I'm having some technical difficulties.
And
I don't see
Aisha.
your hand raised either.
Okay, okay.
Thank you.
Wait, I have one more thing, super fast. Did we talk about, so why is the seating area so small and so clustered? Is it possible to space that out, or did the folks at the scoping meeting request that?
On the door.
It's elevated.
No, can you pull up the dimension plan, Craig? And show that the seating has to be outside of that yellow line. It needs to be outside of the clearance.
That's the spectator offset. So we could only fit them along right here. And then once you went farther to the south, you were within the spectator offset.
Thank you.
Although there is 20 feet between the play area within the spectator offset. So, realistically, if people are showing up with lawn chairs.
Correct.
We have nothing to do with that.
Right. I will be there with my lawn chairs. I will bring you a lawn chair, Danielle. Okay, so that's unanimous. And then on the board members, I think it's just Richard because Steve is obviously not voting. Richard is in favor. Steve not voting. Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate all of that. Next item up on the agenda is the roundtable, brief programming updates from various cultural and Friends of Parks organizations. I want to read something that Marty Collins put up in the chat about the 19th Uptown Art Stroll starts with the annual poster contest announcement on February 1st. You can go to www.artstroll.com for information on the 2021 Art Stroll. I feel very old realizing that it's the 19th Uptown Art Stroll. I remember the first one and I really haven't aged in the interim, so I don't know what happened there.
Liz, could I just tell Leslie, Ricardo, and Craig that they can go home now? I mean, they are home.
They are home, but you can kill your audio and video. Thank you so much. I really appreciate the presentation.
Thank you very much.
Okay, no more overtime for you guys. Cut it out.
Thank you, Steve. Sorry about that. Marty also says there are 2 ongoing shows, the Reimagine exhibit by Diana Grace at the Juan Pablo Duarte Foundation and the GWB bus terminal through the end of January, noon to 6, Tuesdays through Saturdays, and Unspoken Voices honoring the legacy of Black America with 5 artists. See the Dyckman Farmhouse.org for information, and that you are always welcome to go to NOMA.NYC.org for their newsletters and more artist opportunities and events. So there's that. And next up, we have Megan from the Morris Jamel Mansion.
Good evening, everybody. Just a few updates from Morris Jamel this month. We're pleased to say that we've started offering on Thursdays and Fridays private self-guided tour opportunities for seniors and immunocompromised visitors. We also would like to share, some of you may already know, that the public art installation by Andrea Arroyo on the gates of Roger Morris Park, Covida Homage to Victims of the Pandemic, has been extended until the end of the month. And I have been fortunate to see and hear from people about what this has meant to individuals and the community. And I would like to extend an invitation to all of you who are interested in joining us next week. We are having a virtual parlor chat with native New Yorker and poet Roberto Carlos Garcia. He will be reading prose and poetry from his latest work, Elegies, and we will be joined by Veronica and Carolina from Word Up, who are co-sponsors of this event.
What's the date on that?
So we normally hold the virtual parlor chats on the 3rd Wednesday of the month, but because of the inauguration, we've shifted it to Tuesday the 19th at 7 p.m. and it's free with registration.
Super, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Any other, I also want to echo, if people haven't gone to see that Covida installation, it's really spectacular. You should go. Any other announcements?
I just had a comment. Is the guy from the Hispanic Society?
Yes, he's just in. They had an event, and he is here, and I am going to invite him to talk.
Oh, Alex, yeah.
Hi, everyone. It's Alex. Good evening. Thank you so much. I actually caught most of the meeting, so glad. Our event finished around 7:50, so I mean, yeah, 6:50. So I caught most of it. I was interested to hear about the soccer field. Very quickly, but we had an event tonight, and of course, we were happy to share it. It's on our music collection. But we're actually doing a series of our concert series going to start this winter. We're trying to shoot for early February, but it might be a little postponed. We haven't announced it officially, but we'll be sending out the e-blast in a couple of weeks. We're doing actually, it's the North American premiere of the opera Apollo and Daphne. And it's a Baroque piece, and we're going to do over a series of performances throughout this winter and spring hopefully we plan to do an outdoor performance in the summer. All depends on COVID, of course. But it's going to be building up to some final performance. Additionally, we are working with NOMA, or the Manhattan Arts Alliance, to implement a mission on our terrace for this spring that people could see, again, COVID-free, safety, And those are the two major projects we're working on now that are long term that are going to go over a period of months. And that's about it.
Cool. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
I'm sorry. What about the really exciting news that happened
Capital?
yesterday? Was it
What
yesterday or Friday? You all were a Jeopardy question.
Oh, I missed it.
Really?
You were in a Jeopardy question.
On Friday? Oh, you must
I
be
think it was
joking.
yesterday or Friday. I forget.
Oh, I'll look it up. I'll see if I can find
It's
it.
very exciting.
That's exciting. Wow.
Yes.
What was the question? What was
It was a visual. It showed a piece of art from there.
Ah,
That's very cool.
which one? Do you know? Do you remember?
I could tell you what it's shaped like. I couldn't tell the name of it.
I
So
bet
you
it was
could
the
do
Duchess of
what
Alba.
is. So you couldn't answer. You couldn't say what is.
What is? Yes, exactly. What is?
Great.
Okay. Sally, you usually have announcements.
Sure. Thank you to everyone who came out to Mulch Fest, especially a shout out to the Washington Heights Food Council who worked with us to distribute edible plants. We also distributed a bunch of milkweed seeds. If there are any gardens or individuals who want to be planting milkweed now, I have plenty of seeds to share. So just get in touch with us. It was a great event. Huge thanks to Jennifer Hoppe and Jay of Forestry. Thanks to Buny Coffee for the great hot chocolate. It was a great event. And that's what I have.
Thank you. Barbara and then Steve.
Okay, I just wanted to briefly say a little ring garden update. We are accepting composting. Thanks for composting. One of the few places that are. Check with the website for when you can bring compost by, generally Saturday mornings. Sorry, I can't be more specific. Also, our beautiful tree is still lit, so come by and enjoy that. And we expanded this year where we are now putting lights in the back near the Japanese tree. And we hope to expand next year to light much more of the garden and keep it up later in the season so that that whole Lieutenant William Teague triangle will be beautifully lit and bright for the community in these dark days. So that's basically it. And that the tree lighting was a fabulous event. Over 30, 40 people came, and Robert Jackson, Carmen, all their staffs, and it was very well received. And Santa and Mrs. Claus showed up, and many of the children there were really excited, and they received specially decorated cookies, and it was a really uplifting event, a happy, happy time in kind of a dark moment. So that's basically it.
Super. Thank you. Steve.
Yeah, I was wondering whether Alex could tell us about the new executive director for the Hispanic Society. I believe there was a major announcement made pretty recently that the longtime executive director is stepping down, and we have a new one coming in who previously, I think, worked at the Louvre.
Yes.
Come back. Yes. Yes. Mitchell Cotton, who was executive director for 25 years, I believe, resigned last fall. He resigned a year ago, but his last day was October. He's actually doing the project was the Groyle Club. So he's still around, but not executive director anymore. And Margaret Connors McQuaid is acting director right now. We did hire, the board of trustees did hire, after doing an international search over the past year during COVID, Guillaume Kainz, who is a curator of Spanish art, a scholar also of Caravaggio. He worked for the Department of Monuments in France for many years, and a couple years, like 5 or 6 years. And then he worked at the Louvre as a curator of Spanish art for 10 years, 9 or 10 years. And he's currently at the Kimball Art Museum for the past year, heading in Texas, heading their European collection. And he's coming eventually this winter, and we're just waiting to finalize some issues with Kimbo. He has to, leave there and come here and relocate. So we're anticipating him starting February, but might be March.
And tell me again his name.
Guillaume, Guillaume, Kientz. Kent, sorry, Kientz. He's from the German side of France.
Uh-huh. The Kimball, isn't that where the Hispanic Society's collection traveled to when it went to Texas?
No, I went to Houston, Fine Arts Museum of Houston.
Oh, okay.
And
Got
Kimball's
it.
in Fort Worth, and Houston and Fort Worth are not that close to each other.
Got it. I haven't spent a whole lot of time in Texas. My bad.
Bad state.
Okay. It's a very big state.
Oh, but I want to say that the treasure show is going to be going to the National Gallery in London in the winter of 22. So like January, February 22.
Cool. Thank you so much. All
We
right.
continue our renovation efforts, as you know.
Yes. I wanted to.
Liz, if I could just add, Alex, I'm hoping that when the new director arrives, hopefully there'll be a reception so that the people in the community can get to meet him.
Sure. Well, I definitely will be invited to come to this community board meeting virtually. I'll force them to come. But yes, we plan to do some kind of activity, but with COVID, we're not sure it could be a live
Right.
Yeah.
thing,
Right.
So that's all. But we plan to do something that, we're working on like virtual stuff with different groups. We're also working on maybe, with one-time permits to actually do a live one, so forth.
Got it. Thank you. I was about to shout out Dave Sykes, who is an uptown huge soccer advocate. He was on the call until just a moment ago, but I did want to thank him I was remiss in not thanking him and also Roberto and a number of other people for their input on our last item. So, okay, are there other announcements, other business, other questions? I feel like we're a few minutes under 2 hours, and this feels like a good place to stop.
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
Excellent. Thank you so much. I appreciate all of you. It's good to see you all.
I'll take minutes next time.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Alexis.
All right. Thanks, Alexis.
All right. Take it easy, folks.
Bye all. Have a good night. Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Night, everyone.